Welcome and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. Midlife. What an interesting time for many of us who are seeking change. Perhaps it's change in a relationship, change in a career, or perhaps you want to change the way you feel and look when it comes to when you look at yourself in the mirror. The interesting thing, though, for many who decide to get back into shape and to feel better, they don't realize that, well, you're not 15, 16, 18, 20, or 30 years old, but your body is a much different vehicle by the time you're 50 and beyond. So the question is, how do you go about understanding what the next step is to take when it comes to exercising past the age of 50? How should exercise change as we get older? What's the best way to work with a personal trainer if that's the direction that we want to go, and the best diet for weight loss and more? Joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program today is the founder of a business known as Midlife Mojo, which is located in Oregon, and she specializes in helping men and women over 50 to have a trim and functional and youthful body. We're going to discover what those secrets are and what we can do to take the next step from here. I'd like to welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program our guest, Laura Needler. Laura, thank you for joining us here on the program today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
This is so much fun. You decided to work with people in midlife. What made you decide to do that?
I decided to do that at 40, actually.
Well, that's okay. We started this program and I was 38.
Okay.
So there must have been something pulling us in this direction, right?
Sure. What happened is after my kids, I obviously wanted to get myself in shape. I had been active all my life, so I wasn't used to my postpartum body. So I decided to, like many people do, get a personal trainer and at the gym where I belonged. And what I found is that there were like a dearth, just not a lot of older trainers. They were all 25, it seemed. And, 25-year-old trainers are great. It's just, it didn't suit me. With the 25-year-old, she didn't have kids, and she had a job, but she didn't have families and older parents and things that just sort of weighs on you as you are, and they do in middle age. So she didn't understand some of the pressures that I was under and how that affected my outcome, my health. And I wasn't 25 anymore. And, as we know, our metabolism slows, old injuries come back to haunt us, and we need people who not only understands it, but people who has lived it, too, I believe.
Well, it's interesting, too, when you think of the mindset of that 25-year-old trainer. It's like, get in there, it's no pain, no gain. But, for the most part, these people were experiencing the same things we did probably back in the day, that flexibility, that ability to heal quickly and maybe get over the aches and pains from a workout the next day a little bit faster. Things are just a little bit different, aren't they?
They are a lot different. They are. And that doesn't mean we can't get in shape. I mean, I'm in the best shape of my life right now. And but it just means I have to do it a little differently.
Mm-hmm. Now let's talk about that when it comes to, first of all, deciding that that's a direction you want to go, and then, of course, picking that personal trainer, because it makes sense if you've been out of the gym for a while that some guidance would be a great thing to have.
Sure. And that's what a good trainer will do. They'll give you guidance. They'll assess your physical characteristics. They will, when I have a new client, what I do is I put them through a functional movement test. And that assesses any, first of all, muscular imbalances. And that only means if your right side can do things that your left side cannot do, or vice versa. And that doesn't sound like much, but that's, a huge factor, especially if you're doing something that requires both sides of your body. If one part of the body is stronger than the other, you're going to get hurt. Mm-hmm. And then I assess any kind of mobility problems. One interesting thing is that, with 3 to 5 year olds, is they can all squat perfectly. they can all touch their toes and put their head between their knees. And what happens is that once they get into kindergarten and first grade, what are they required to do? They're required to sit and sit still for the remainder of school. And that's when they lose a lot of their mobility. Now, when you get up to 50 and beyond, you've been sitting a good part of your life, and there are going to be some mobility problems. Mm-hmm. And that's just the society we have. We sit in front of computers. We sit at our desks. We, have to sit when we drive. Mm-hmm. And so I look for mobility problems. And then I look also for stability problems, and that is how your body can keep still. I mean, can it, when you do a squat, does your back, you can, bend your knees and bend your hips, but does your back hold you upright? Or are you falling backwards or falling forwards? That would be a stability problem.
Mm-hmm. So there's some really intricate things that you're looking for when somebody starts this regimen before you actually get started then.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And, you also want to get a family history. You want to get their history. And this is a time when old injuries, old football injuries or soccer injuries will come back to haunt you. So I want to know all about that as well.
Mm-hmm. So it also sounds like, too, that besides taking a look at the physiology of someone that you're working with, that I would think nutrition is a very big part of that because depending on how a person eats, could be directly correlated to these old injuries coming up or the lack of healing, repair, and replacing of cells, those kinds of things.
Absolutely. And it also matters by how much we drink, too. I've had clients that say, I got to have 12 beers a week. It's like, right. Well, if you're over 50, we all remember when we could, just drink ourselves under the table and then get up the next morning and go on a 3-mile run.
I don't know if I've ever had that experience, but certainly.
Well, when we were 22, we could recover right. a lot quicker.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Right.
Depending, right.
And, we can't do that anymore. And so the toxins we put in our body, like alcohol is a toxin. Mm-hmm. It takes a long time to get out, and it accumulates as well. But yes, nutrition is a definite key. I have a lot of female clients, women clients, who have gone on these crazy diets. They've gone on 800-calorie-a-day diets, and they have, been in a 1,000-calorie deficit, which, they're exercising 1,000 calories more than they're eating. And so their metabolisms are shot. So that's just like another part of nutrition. And what I tell my clients to do is eat a diet that you can sustain. Don't, go on a diet that you cannot hold for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. Now's the time to make, some fundamental changes, but not completely deprive yourself so you're just going to binge later on.
Mm-hmm. And you bring up something that I think is really interesting that the listeners should know is when somebody decides they want to move in this direction, I want to get back and I want to get back into the shape, I would think one of the big things you would also address, too, is expectation. Tell us about that one there.
Okay, expectations are awesome because one of the reasons why I like older clients is that they're not going to say, they're not apt to say, I want to get into a size 2 wedding dress by my wedding, which is in 3.5 months. A lot of them have, I would say, more mature expectations, but we're not going to have the body we had at 25.
Right.
And what I tell people is to look for functional results before aesthetic results. So, when you start training, you're going to, some of the characteristics you're going to have is you're going to feel better. you're going to have more energy. That's what's going to happen first. You're going to have more energy. You're going to be more present in the moment. Then what I tell my clients is you're going to get tighter, not lighter. And that means you're going to build muscle, so you're going to look toned, you're going to look tighter. But if you get on the scale, it may not change because muscle weighs more than fat.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually, maybe you'll lose some weight. But I don't weigh my clients because the scale is just one minor indication of how fit you are.
Right. Well, I like what you brought up there about, don't try to come at this for losing weight, although that's possible, but you're looking to change some things that to me seem a lot more valuable. Like you said, you're becoming tone and tight. That feels pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
You're gaining more energy, which is really a great benefit. And as you said, you become calmer, and there seems to be more mental clarity because I would think that you're oxygenating the body a lot more. And boy, does the brain need a lot of that, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, especially as we get older.
Right.
And when you're learning new things, like learning different body movements, you're creating more neurons, more neurotransmitters. And so your brain gets a big boost as well.
Now, as you work with people, going back to what I asked earlier, what do you commonly see as expectations that people have that could eventually cause them to say, well, I'm not living up to what I thought this was going to bring me, so I quit?
Mm-hmm. They want to see results right away.
Yeah, welcome to America.
Yeah, I know. They want to get rid of their belly in 4 weeks, just by coming in maybe once or twice a week.
I was going to say, I was remembering the comedian Drew Carey when I was watching him in a comedy bit, and he was saying, well, I just discovered my 25-year class reunion is just around the corner, so I got a month to lose weight and get a new career.
Yes, exactly.
But that's how it is for a lot of people, it seems like, that false expectation that can only be created in America, it seems like.
Yes, exactly. And, only in America can you treat your body like crap, and then suddenly you hire a trainer and you want results in 2 months. It's like, no. So I have to really kind of sit people back and kind of set them down to the reality. And, or they want their body back when they were 25. It's like, when I was 25, I could run 10 miles a day and then lift weights and then go out for a beer. I'm like, well, you're not 25 years old anymore, so let's just try to do a squat and see how you're doing. And so, the results-oriented, and I just have to kind of change the results, like change what kind of results they want. Or put them on saying, this is a year-long commitment. And if you sit down and say that right away, they're apt to get less frustrated. If you say, this is a year-long commitment.
Do you find they become discouraged a little bit in the beginning when they hear something like that?
Sometimes, but most people I've found over 50 kind of already know that somehow. They've kind of already intuitively understand that, okay, I'm in this for the long term. And your priorities change as you get older. And suddenly, you no longer really care about the bikini bod as much as you care about being able to, get up out of a chair without groaning, or, being able to play with your grandchildren or something like that without getting, tired or winded. So luckily, your priorities do change as you get older, so I haven't run into too much of that. But when I do, it's very frustrating for both of us, the client and me as the trainer.
And how do you go about working with something like that?
We have to talk a lot, and I have to tell them, look, this is what happens. One thing that happens as we get older, it takes a longer time to rest. We need to recover. So we have to take more rest days. which is less times exercising, which slows down the process. And if you tell them that in a scientific way, without, scientific jargon, then they're more apt to understand. And if they don't understand, then I just realize that they're not the client for me. And they can, go and to another trainer possibly and, hurt themselves or whatever. But we have to be on the same page before I will train someone. Mm-hmm. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't lose weight, they won't lose the belly fat, they won't lose, they won't get healthier, but it just has to be done in a pared-down situation.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, it goes to realigning what you believe your goals are versus the reality of the goals that you're trying to achieve.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And, I've gone through this myself. When I started kettlebell training, I wanted to lose 10 pounds. I want to lose 10 pounds. And I still haven't lost the 10 pounds, but I've gotten a whole lot stronger and more fit. So it affects everyone. Everyone has to kind of reassess their expectations.
I remember a time, I believe I was in my mid-30s when it had been a while since I'd been in the gym, decided, I want to go back and get back into the gym again. And I remembering a time back in my freshman year of high school when I used to get together with a friend of mine after school, and there was a place where we would go and we would work out. And, of course, as you were saying, things are much different when you're a teenager than they are when you're in your 30s. Mm-hmm. The only difference was that my friend and I, especially my friend, he really understood bodybuilding. And so the one thing, it wasn't about picking up the big, huge dumbbell and seeing how many curls that you can do that's way out of your league, but it's about doing it correctly. It's about doing it slowly. And I remember being in the gym, and here I was, I'm picking up at first a 5-pound dumbbell, and a guy my size, people would kind of look and go, geez, what a weakling. But I understood I had been out of the gym for a while, and it was a matter of getting that correct movement back. Right. Because you don't do things right, and you're going to do some serious damage, and I'm sure you've experienced that, if not for yourself and other people. And I watched this kid, this skinny little kid. He comes in there, and he's probably 17 or 18 years old. He picks up a 45-pound dumbbell. And wow. Even back when I was working out regularly, that was something I rarely used. I just wasn't at that level yet. And he's there, and you're watching his shoulder bend down to the ground, and he's curling this thing. And I'm looking at him, and I said, kid, you really need to stop this. And actually, a personal trainer came in, and he stood beside me and said the same thing. I said, you're way out of your league. I said, take a look at what I'm doing. I'm using 5 pounds here. Mm-hmm. I said, you're not doing anything that's going to help you. In fact, you might end up getting your arm chopped off if you keep that up. Eventually, you got to the smaller dumbbell. But you see people like that go in with these, well, I remember there was a time that I was almost at that level, so there's this bravado when they go into the gym. They believe everybody's watching and judging what it is they're doing, but most of the time, people in gyms aren't paying attention at all to anything that you're doing, especially if they're regular. But, I can see how people, especially at midlife, who haven't been in a gym in a long time or worked out in a long time, might feel intimidated about going into a place like that. So describe really what that environment is like so people listening might think, okay, maybe it's not as bad as I think it is.
Well, it's, funny. I worked at a gym, and there would be some of these strong men, and they'd be doing curls, right? And they'd be groaning, making noises that I didn't even make during childbirth. It was just like, oh, come on, people.
Sort of like tennis players today that, is that really necessary?
Oh, yeah, and it was totally show-off. It's like, really, guys? And then their form would be just awful. And, they'd be using their back muscles to do curls, and they wouldn't be doing what I call multi-joint exercises. They'd just be doing their biceps, which is nice, but it's not going to make you a more fit individual. And I just say that they are so into themselves that they don't even see you. You're not even on their radar. So you could, go up and do a dance in front of the mirror, and they wouldn't care.
Mm-hmm.
So no one at the gym is there to judge you because they're too self-involved. They're too involved in themselves to judge anyone else. And I saw this again and again, and it can be intimidating, but sometimes you just have to laugh and say, okay, these guys are really into their own thing and really don't even, a lot of them don't know what they're doing, so just ignore them.
Yeah, forget about it.
Oh, sure, just ignore it, yeah.
As you've been working with the midlife crowd, what have you seen has been the real benefit of working with this age group?
Oh, well, as I kind of mentioned before, a lot of them have, they have decent expectations. They're not there to, I've got to lose, 25 pounds by my wedding in 3 months. How do I do it? It's like, oh, good God. They tend to have more realistic expectations, and they tend to want to be healthy in general, and that's a fun thing to do, is to get people healthy. It's more holistic. They have a more holistic idea of what being healthy entails, and that includes diet and exercise and even, spirituality, that type of thing. They tend to be more reliable. I mean, I'm not bashing young people. I was once young, but they tend to, show up when they say they will. If they can't show up, they'll let me know, that sort of thing. I don't have to get up at 5 in the morning to do a 6 a.m. and have them not show up because they slept through because they were partying the night before. All trainers have been there.
Right.
They value function more than aesthetics. I had one, actually she was a younger client, she wasn't 50, but all she wanted to do is she had a disabled son who I think was about 1.5 or 2, but she knew she was in a lifetime of lifting because this little boy was never going to walk. So she just wanted to be able to lift the boy like out of the crib or out of his wheelchair and to get the muscles without hurting her back. And those are the kind of clients I love, that value. She didn't care what she looked like, but she just wanted to be able to lift properly.
I think, Laura, you bring up one of the most amazing benefits for people to even consider moving in this direction, and that is just feeling good. I know that as I had been back to the gym, for me, the most enjoyable part of working out, was getting the movement down and getting it right. That was one of the most important things. And the other thing is to feel the beautiful sensation of the movement of the workout in and of itself.
Right.
Now, for the listeners out there, I'm certainly not a personal trainer, but these were interesting benefits that I began to experience. And it was also enjoyable at the gym that I was at. The owner, he was generally there, and he was always a lot of fun to talk with. And, here's a big benefit. How many of you out there would like to sleep better at night? There's one of the big ones right there, that you really sleep and feel rested, where you pop out of bed. There's no hitting that alarm reluctantly or begrudgingly. You actually feel like it's time to get up.
Exactly.
The second thing, too, is when you talk about people who want to lose weight, of course, that's a great benefit to have. But even if you don't, as you exercise and you work out, you feel lighter when you walk, don't you?
And that's increased muscle tone.
Right.
You do feel lighter. And that's really also increased flexibility, increased muscle tone, too. So, right, the scale may not change, but boy, you feel and look better.
And here's another one, and this comes, and I'm quoting directly from the owner of this particular nightclub because he was rattling these off. He says, and you're also a little better in the sack. Talk about, well, I bet you, do you ever have clients that maybe have a goal like that?
No, I never have. But I
love the way he said that. I feel better. I've got more energy. I'm better in the sack. And I thought, yeah, those are pretty good benefits, actually.
Sure. I put that down as a spiritual benefit.
There you go.
How much more spiritual can you get?
You're screaming, oh, God, quite a bit, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. So that I put down as a spiritual benefit. But also, if you feel better about yourself, you're more likely to be more active in bed. It's just, if you feel awful about the way you look and the way you feel, you don't want anyone touching you. It's like, get away from me.
Mm-hmm. Now, okay, what are other spiritual benefits? It's interesting you brought that one up there.
Okay, other spiritual benefits, I would say, is, okay, bear with me here, gives you more balanced hormones. Now, what are hormones? The endocrine function is how our body communicates. Our parts of our bodies communicate with each other. Hormones are just communicators. How one part of the body communicates with another. Insulin, for example, is huge. And if you have a more balanced hormones, you have a more balanced spirit because your body is doing great in communication. Does that make sense?
Sure it does.
Okay. And then you feel more energized. So when you feel more energized, your body and spirit is more energized and more present in life. Just the fact that you're taking care of yourself, you're taking time to take care of yourself is a great spiritual benefit. Because you are maybe going a little bit inward and taking care of the vessel that houses your spirit, if that's not too voodoo or, But when you take time to take care of your body, you're obviously taking care of your spirit because that's where the spirit resides.
And certainly the mental clarity is always a good thing because in continuous exercise you get to a point where you seem to be more aware and present in the moment too, don't you?
Mm-hmm. More present for, then when we have to take care of others, more present for our kids, more present for our spouse, our coworkers. Exactly. And so it does benefit other people in the long run. Mm-hmm. And that was a hard thing for me to understand. Back when I was 40 and I had young kids and I would go to the gym and I would get on, the elliptical or some, crazy thing like that, and I would be exercising. I would start thinking, I got to do the laundry. I got to go home and do the laundry. I got to go home. What if the kids don't like their babysitter? I should go check on them. And, I got to go get the car washed. All this litany of things that we need to do in our daily lives. And so what I finally did is I said, okay, I'm going to go to the gym, and I am going to stay there for an hour, and I am not leaving this building for 1 hour, whether I have to sit near the exit and stay there for an hour or whether I actually, use the exercise. I'm going to be here for an hour. I'm not going to think about anything else, and you have to make that commitment with yourself. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're going to get completely sidetracked.
Mm-hmm. I think you bring up a benefit or at least a goal so that you can achieve that should you decide to join a gym. I think the first thing that people end up doing when they join a gym where they decide to quit is how easily accessible is the gym? Is it 3 miles, 5 miles, 10 miles away from the home, or is it right around the corner conveniently along the way of a path that you frequent? So I had to make sure that the gym was readily available so it wasn't out of the way. But the biggest thing, too, is that the gym also had to have perks I knew I would enjoy after a workout, and that was the hot tub, the steam room, and the sauna. And if nothing more, I would say to myself, I want to go down and do a hot tub today. That's all I want to do when I go to the gym. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. But the most amazing thing was when I would show up to do that, I would actually think, why not work out a little bit so I can really enjoy the hot tub?
Exactly.
And there you go. So add perks. So these are some important things, especially for our listeners who want to get back to training and working out and exercising. Put some incentives in there that really physiologically benefit you, but that also cause you to show up, as you said, back to that owner of that place I was telling you about. He says, that's all you got to do is show up. He says,
Right.
if you can just do that, you've already hurdled the biggest obstacle of the whole thing. Then after that, decide what you're going to do and don't be so hard on yourself. Mm-hmm. And just that alone, I was like, he's right about that. I'd show up and, today feels like I'd like to do a steam and a sauna kind of a thing, but every time I showed up just to do that, I always found myself exercising, always. And it was a great routine.
Exactly. And the sad part is that with gyms, most of their memberships come right after January. Right. January to March is their busiest time. And it's almost though they do it in such a way that they count on those people. They'll sign up more people than the gym can actually hold, right, because they're counting on 70% of the people they sign up never showing up again, mm-hmm, after March. Mm-hmm. And so exactly, you need those things to get you into the gym. You need it to be accessible. You need to carve time out of your day. And you need the benefits of a hot steam or a jacuzzi. Mm-hmm. What I do with my clients is that at the end of their sessions, I will give them a PNF stretch. The PNF stretch is just when they don't do anything. I do the stretching for them. And most people love that. Or I'll give them like a light massage. I'm not a massage therapist, but I can, rub someone's back if they want it, that sort of thing, and give them a reward for showing up.
Very important stuff, no doubt about that.
Right.
When it comes to looking for a personal trainer, a lot of people might think, well, aren't personal trainers kind of spendy? And they can be, but there's a lot that a personal trainer brings to the table, it sounds like, especially from what you've been describing today. But what are things they should look for when it comes to seeking the right personal trainer for themselves?
The first thing they need to look for is certifications, because anyone could say they're a personal trainer and, train someone and hurt them because they don't know what they're doing. You got to look for someone, make sure they have really proper certifications, that they've been maybe to a school. Like I graduated from National Personal Training Institute in Portland. Mm-hmm. And that was like a 9-month course and very, all day for 9 months, very in-depth. The best, well, I don't want to get in trouble, but some of the top certifications are the American College of Sports Medicine, the NASM, I think that's the National Association of Sports Medicine, and make sure that they continue to learn. They have more than one certification. Some have, I've known people, let's see, there's corrective exercise certifications. I have my certification in functional movement. So give them a willingness to learn. Find out how long they've been a trainer. And then you can get into, okay, do I want a male or female trainer? Do I want one my age, one that, focuses on people my age? Do I want one that works out of a gym or out of a studio? But find the certifications first. Otherwise, you can really hurt yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty interesting this day and age how many people become self-proclaimed experts in areas, and you realize how little professional training some of them actually have.
Oh, it's scary. And, unfortunately, I'm not bashing my profession, but it doesn't have a license. To be a real estate broker, you need a license. You need to be a lawyer, you have to pass the bar. But it's not the same with personal trainers. And that's why you have to dig further and say, okay, what kind of experience do you have? What kind of certifications do you have?
It's also fascinating, but it's not a really hard maze to navigate, is it?
You mean for...
Well, just the whole thing about, for instance, finding the personal trainer, the right place to go and exercise, what are your goals, your expectations, those sort of things. So really I think for our listeners, what a great takeaway from this is, if this is a direction you decide to go, the first question is, why did you decide to do that? I'll give you a funny story. As I remember a place that I used to exercise at, there was a gal that was one of the trainers there, and it was kind of a slow day, and so there was a guy that was coming in, and he was inquiring about what's the cost and so forth. And then as he left, she came over and she was talking with me, and she says, it's so funny how often we see, especially males, they'll come in here and they want to start working out again. Well, that's because they just recently left their wife or they just got a divorce.
Right.
And it's like, well, why can't these guys look great for their wives and maybe avoid the divorce because they feel healthier all the way around, versus, the guy that's out there in his front yard pushing the lawnmower, he begrudgingly bags under his eyes and a beer belly. It's like, well, I see a relationship going south there, definitely.
I suppose it could go for women, too. You know.
Well, I'm sure, but it seemed that she seemed to notice that more in men than women. So.
Yeah. They suddenly want to, get their bodies back so they can date. And, oh, sure. Yeah.
Laura, I could see how you'd be a marvelous personal trainer for just about anybody, any age, it seems like.
Oh, thank you.
So describe for us what it means to get our midlife mojo.
That's basically energy back, how you view yourself. As we get into midlife, obviously our body starts to age, and we can really feel it. It's like, oh, gosh, I look in the mirror and I don't see my 30-year-old self anymore. I start seeing wrinkles and bags, like, oh, my God, and it's easy to get bogged down in that. And it's also easy to get sucked into life, jobs. A lot of us have aging parents, and we're kind of the sandwich generation. We have aging parents, and we have kids, so we have to take care of. So to get our mojo back, that's just to take time to ourselves and to get our energy back. And, to understand that, yes, we have aging bodies, but that's not an excuse to stop exercising or to stop getting fit.
Laura, is there a way people can connect with you online?
There is. I prefer they call my number, if that's okay. Give me a text.
Because you got to understand what we've talked about here today is going to become worldwide. So you'll be an influence worldwide, but I do know that you're located just outside of Portland, Oregon, and so that'll be great for the locals, but worldwide you're certainly passing on advice that I think people should really embrace. Sure.
You can call me at 503, it's my cell, 970-2322. And I have, I'm on Facebook. Okay. And it's just under Midlife, MID-LIFE, Mojo. Okay. It's under Health and Beauty. And you can, I already have, 1,300 likes, and so you can join me there.
Well, very good. Well, Laura, thank you so much for joining us on the program today and inspiring those to realize, take that first step forward, do it with courage, because the benefits you'll reap will be just unbelievable.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for having me.
You bet. Take care.
It's been a pleasure. Bye-bye.
We want to thank you, the listeners out there, for tuning in. Take that big step and feel better about what it is to be in midlife and to feel the kind of energy that you should be experiencing. Take that energy, hit the keyboard, and visit us at beyond50radio.com. That is the number 50. And also sign up for our free weekly e-news updates. You can also follow us on Twitter, and we're also on Facebook as well, Beyond 50 Radio. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for tuning in, and remember, live your day past halfway.